Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the Thursday night / Friday night edition of the Whitfield Report, or I should say Thursday night / Friday morning edition of the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting as always from NGC Studios here in South Florida, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in tonight, wherever you are, on the East Coast, West Coast, in the United States, or internationally, as some of our subscribers are now international subscribers as well. So we're going to have a jam-packed show for you here tonight, or today, depending on which part of the past, present, future hour you are currently in. Anyway, contact info as usual for those of you listening on the audio podcast. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @70_NGC. You can follow me on Gab at Sam Whitfield. Facebook.com / Whitfield Report. TheSamWhitfield.com is my website, and of course, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or all your favorite audio platforms. And you can also donate anytime during the program to streamlabs.com / The Whitfield Report. And I will read those donations at the end of the show. So folks, yesterday, or I guess today, Thursday, I reached 500 subscribers. And, the first two streams I did were more or less just free-for-alls. But I really do want to, get back into kind of my usual thing of doing a actual talk program. Not that I've ever really left the format. The free-for-all streams are fun as well, but this is a podcast. So, anyway, I figured I would take a few, or at least one of the questions that I get a lot are, who are my influences in podcasting? So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight, and we're gonna talk how this medium has really changed and evolved, and what maybe the future might hold, good or bad, for this medium. So as I began to explain last night, I was a political nerd when I was in junior high, like high school. And because I never really bought into the political correctness BS, even from an early age, I was never into it at all. I was pretty much raised to really be a critical thinker, instead of just accepting things as the way they were. I was also raised, and it was beaten into me, not literally, but figuratively, that I was, that even though I have a disability, that I wasn't gonna get cut any slack in life. And so I'd like to think that that's one of the reasons why I have my head on straight. Although shitty things have happened to me in my life, I recognize that I'm not a victim. I also recognize that, well, I'm not a victim, I recognize that all of us are flawed. We are flawed as human beings, and the only one who can redeem us is Christ, if you believe in Christianity as I do. If you don't, obviously, you it's always a good idea to believe in a higher power, I think. But regardless of that, one of the things that really bothered me from the beginning about Obama and about the cultural left was really the simultaneous hero worship of Obama, and then also this the victim mentality and the trophy kind of mentality of millennials. Now, let me explain something about that real quick, because this is one of my pet peeves, right? Because the baby boomers love to talk about how the millennials were the trophy generation, right? You always hear about how, oh, millennials, they're all spoiled, trophy generation. They don't know how to work hard. They don't have a work ethic at all. They're lazy. They're just so sensitive, and they're just so obsessed with their phones and whatnot. And these are all things that boomers say on a regular basis. Well, guess who? Guess who was the one who developed all that psychiatry and whatnot, and came up with the, with the whole trophy generation, and how if we don't hurt anyone's feelings, everyone will be good. It was the baby boomers. This whole mentality that, like, one of the things that was incredibly stupid in school was, this whole idea of, obviously, you don't want to be a bully. Okay, I get that. But this whole idea that you can just talk to bullies and, laugh off the fact if they're, beating you up or something, that you're supposed to, not respond, that never sat well with me, and that never sat well with my parents. I was told that if I had to, I was told, and thank God I never had to do this, but my mother literally said at one point, listen, if someone starts fucking with you, and they're getting physical, don't try and talk your way out of it. Either punch him or, since you're in a wheelchair, just run their feet over or something. That's what... So, I was taught to stand up for myself. And, so I'd like to think that I have a bit of a backbone. Obviously, I'm not a guy that goes out looking for fights. But, this all relates into the culture war, because there are a fair amount of millennials out there. Long story short, I'm not alone in having the mindset that, basically, I'm not the only millennial that isn't a pussy. There are lots of millennials out there who are sick and tired of this, politically correct BS, and have been for a long time. So, that's why I started the podcast in 2008. My first podcast, the Whitfield's analysis, and 11 years later, and now we're on YouTube, and it's come to this. And I'm extremely grateful for all of you. Yeah, Johnny Arcade is right. If a guy gives you the look, hit him first. No fucking way. Yeah, but I mean, Johnny, in today's society, we're taught that we just need to sit down and talk with the bully, because maybe the bully, or let's speak in adult terms, maybe the criminal or whatever just had a bad childhood. We need to sit down and reason with them. No, not gonna happen. So, I mean, I remember when I started the show, that was kind of like, my thing was that, there are still some, like, regular, normal millennials who didn't appreciate the trophy, not even so much the trophy generation, but the fifis, crap out there. Not everything needed to be touchy-feely and, everything. But, we can be nice, but we can still, talk like normal people and whatnot. So, in terms of who influenced me in terms of media, well, very early on, my earliest influence would be Rush Limbaugh, and that was merely due to the fact that I remember hearing Rush Limbaugh on the radio, and I remember how pissed off he would always get the left and liberal callers, and they were always calling him like a Nazi and basically all the buzzwords that we get called now. And I just loved that he was trolling him by being himself. And I figured, even as like a kid in 8th grade, I figured, oh shit, I want to do that. If I can get paid to just talk, or even if it's, for just a little bit, if I can build an audience just from talking, well then shit, that's what I want to do with my life. So I started a podcast. I recorded my first podcast on like an old laptop, without a mic or anything, and it was horrible. But I just put the file out there, and like some of my friends listened to it and they liked it for the most part. And I just kept doing it. Even when I really didn't have an audience. I didn't really have like a main audience until I moved over to Blog Talk Radio in year 3, I think. Then I started building an audience. Then I moved to another podcast network and got picked up by Young Conservatives Network later on when I was like a junior or a senior in high school. That was when I interviewed Ben Shapiro, which really started my trajectory, and the rest, as they say, is history. So Rush Limbaugh was a big influence in terms of radio, but then podcasting came along, and Adam Carolla is Adam Carolla is the podfather. he's the guy who pretty much made, the transition from talk radio into podcasting. And, honestly, that was the first time I remember, hearing, fuck on, that was the first time I remember hearing, the word fuck on, a radio program. Even though it was internet, that was still, mind-blowing to me. That you could say fuck, shit, and, damn on air. It was awesome. I felt like I was, listening to, some underground thing. And that was that was and still is the beauty of podcasting. It's uncensored for the most part. So I really started to basically my style is basically I'm just an amalgamation of a bunch of the different hosts that I like in terms of podcasting style. So this was one of the Adam Carolla bits that I remember hearing very early on from back in 2011 that I absolutely love, and I still think that this is absolutely true to this day still regarding the leftist mentality and whatnot. This was Adam Carolla talking at Occupy Wall Street back in 2011. Let's roll the clip, shall we?
I just heard today that in California that before the economy fell apart, I think it was the top 1% of taxpayers paid for 50% of the taxes that came in here in California. And that's 1% paying for 50%. Not good enough. Not good enough. I understand some people have more than others. That's always going to be there. And we started off this evening talking about the auto show and about how the crazy competition just led to these crazy, crazy cars. And I know sometimes it goes astray, but for the most part, it's the best system we have. And trying to get the top 1% to pay for the bottom 55% or to pay in 55%, that's not the angle to choose. The angle's worrying about what the fuck the other 50% are doing, not what the top who's already paying way more than their fair share is doing. There's something that's come up in this country that didn't used to exist, which is envy. And it's a big issue. And it was understood back in the day, and we are empowering, we're now dealing with the first wave of participation trophy. My own fecal matter doesn't stink.
Now, what I want to point out here real quick before we continue on, this clip that I have is from an Adam Carolla podcast from back in 2011. So, it's pretty, dated now, but really nothing with the far left and their mentality and some of these, just internet celebrities in general. You all know who I'm talking about. Everything with these internet celebrities and the Antifa types and the Occupy Wall Street, nothing has changed at all with their mentality since this, clip came out a few years ago. Nothing. 2011, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue on.
Howard, I feel so fucking good about myself. Everybody's a winner. There's no losers. We are dealing with the first wave of those fucking assholes. That's who we're dealing with now. Because this has been going on for about 25 years, and we're just starting to get maybe 20 years, and those kids were 8 or 9 years old, and we're getting the first...
Is that the millennials? I think that's the name for these
I call them the ass douches.
That colloquially, they're known as the ass douches.
No, I saw that on the news.
Oh, okay.
That's
I stand corrected.
Yeah, Brian Williams called them the ass douches.
Right.
Yeah.
Bri White?
Hand of God. Hand of God. Hand of God. So what we have, I haven't really broken this down, but I'm going to try now. We created a bunch of fucking self-entitled monsters. And this has become the pursuit of my life, where people are so far out of it and what they expect and what they think realistic is and what the set of rules that pertains to them versus the other guys, because that's what the bottom line is. I want my most valuable player trophy. Well, you're the slowest, fattest guy on the team. Why should he get one and I don't get one? Because he busts his ass and he runs a 4.440. That's why he gets one. Well, this is bullshit. And then everyone gets involved, and then everyone gives everyone a participation trophy, and then everyone feels good about themselves. But it's not based on anything. You should feel good about yourself because of your accomplishments, not because somebody yelled at you to feel good about yourself, and you got a fucking fake piece of plastic that was sprayed gold and had your name on a plaque on the bottom of it. And when these folks become adults and enter the workforce, and they've done stories about this, how you can't treat them, the boss can't...
Or become, comedians with 147 IQs, ladies and gentlemen. That's another aspect of this, but, continue on.
Hey, let's go. Let's get back to work now. Oh, you raised your voice to me. You better watch your tone, buddy. My dad's a lawyer. I'll sue your ass. I'll take this company. Self-entitled pricks who think the world owes them a living. And now we're getting the first wave of these douchebags. And now they grew up, and it's fine if you grow up in this little snow globe of a life where everything is awesome and everyone gets a participation trophy and there's snowing. No losers. Well, when you get shaken up. And everything's awesome. But then you get out into the real world and you realize, I'm a fucking loser. You're not doing that well. You're not making that much money. There's no more participation trophies. This is the fucking LA Auto Show. You don't get to sit around and go, hey, here's my piece of shit I worked on. Everyone, why aren't you guys buying it? And then, instead of finding a fucking mirror and finding the reason why no one's buying your car, you just want to run around and yell at everyone else who's selling cars. And now you want to take shit and throw it at the cars because you want to fuck their cars up. Because that's what's going on. It's like, instead of looking in the mirror and go, why the fuck am I not doing better? You just find some guys got more shit than you and go, hey man, what do you need all that shit for? It's the same version of, hey man, what do you need an MVP trophy for? Because I bust my ass. That's why. Or maybe I'm just genetically better than you. Either way, buddy, I got the trophy. So shut the fuck up and get the fuck back to work, or better yet, on the bench where you belong. This is what's going on. So they're feeling shame. They've been shamed by life because they haven't been prepared for life. They've been had so much smoke blown up their fucking collective asses by the time they get out in the real world, and they realize the real world doesn't give a fuck where you're from or what your mommy said you were or how pretty you are or what you do. They don't give a fuck what anyone... all those lies that were told you.
Oh shit, this is good. This is really good. But for, I mean, this is just really good, but not for the reasons I initially remember it being good. But yeah, this little rant here, and it's not over, but I've gotta do some commentary, fair use and whatnot. This was one of the moments, this was one of those moments in podcast history where after Carolla did that rant, I literally went, fuck it, I'm going uncensored on my show, because up to this point, I had just been doing like the standard FCC keep it clean type thing, I mean, I was having fun, but once I realized I could go uncensored on the internet and still do my own thing with conservative and libertarian commentary, Oh boy, I had way more fun once I discovered I could do that. So, anyway.
Your parents about how special you are and how no one was created like you and all this
And how you have a 147 IQ.
shit advertised with Nike and all this. Like, it's just one you and you take it all and it's your world and all that Reebok shit doesn't mean shit when you get to the real world and you're just looked at as peon number 27 who's putting in an application, and guess what? I don't like your attitude, douche. Fuck douche.
Ass douche.
Ass douche. Get your fucking feet off my desk and hit the bricks. I'm not hiring you. Then, now, your plan is to come back and throw a brick at my window. That's your plan. This is what's going on. It's this envy and shame, and there's going to be a lot more of it. Because it used to be, back in the day, father would be walking his son down the sidewalk, and you'd see a guy go by in a Rolls Royce, and the father would say, "There goes Mr. Jenkins. Look up to him. That guy works hard. That guy built a company. That guy built an empire. Now look at him. He's got his Rolls Royce. He's driving up the hill." But what do we do now? Now it's like, oh, look at him. Look at him. Does he need that car?
Yeah.
Why does he need that car? I'm driving a fucking Chevette. Why does he get to drive that fucking car? You know what? Let's go up there and throw a rock at it. That ain't going to help you get out of the Chevette, ass douche.
That's right.
Get the fuck to work. And by the way, parents, society, we are creating a group of self-entitled monsters.
Well,
Let's knock it off.
Right. And I'm wondering, all the parents that created this culture of ass douchery, are they the ones who are feeling like, well, I was never told I was special enough? Like, are they overcompensating for their childhood? Because now there's been like sort of a few generations that are aware of Dr. Spock and aware that kids have special emotional needs and etc.
We started, we have these weird swings in raising kids, and they're not very good. I mean, I grew up in the sort of 70s, just free to be me, you and me. Hey, man, if he doesn't want to learn to read, he doesn't have to learn to read. Yeah, just run wild, free range, do your own thing, man. That whole hippie, do your own thing, never fucking panned out. Mm-mm. And the super self-esteem building and just all this bullshit where we have to knock down a Christmas celebration, call it a holiday celebration so we don't offend the one kid whose parents are litigious or whatever. We fucked our society up royally. We've basically taken that one kid and empowered him, and we've got to stop, because that's what all this is. It used to be that you looked, I'm not saying you took random rich guys and worshipped at their altar, but you took guys who built something and you said, there's a guy who's accomplished something, not, well, why isn't he paying his fair share? I mean, when did that ever fucking come about? Mm-hmm. That guy paid in millions of dollars last year. You paid in shit and you're pissed at him? Obviously, it doesn't make sense. Obviously, it's not a rational thought. It's shame-driven. And you want to extrapolate this. This is essentially what the terrorists do with us. They see us over here in our hot tubs, driving our big cars around, having our parties, turning on...
Dude, big cars with hot tubs.
Yeah, stretch limos with hot tubs. Our chicks looking hot, fake boobies
Splashing
and bikinis and all that. And they're like, fuck it, Allah's going to take care of these guys. And then Allah doesn't take care of shit. And then they come down and blow our buildings up. It's this weird... It's not... We think it's about religion, or we think it's about, cultures. It's one culture can't live next to another culture that's thriving without getting pissed off, envious, resentful. You then get shamed, and when you get shamed, there's two things you can do with shame. You can be shamed and go, I better get my shit together, or you can be shamed and go, I'm going to tear that guy's shit down. And that's where we're at now. Mm-hmm. When you feel that shame, get your shit together. Leave my shit alone.
Yeah, it's like global sibling rivalry.
Thank you. That's what it is. It's old. It's as old as the Bible.
Okay, so that rant was over. Yeah, and I'm reading the some of the comments that people are making. And look, I'm not... Okay, I'm not saying that this is directly about, I'm not saying that this is about the 7-foot tall guy who runs an internet cult, because this was way before he was even on the radar. But that rant, and let me tell you something about millennials too. So I mean, you know, obviously I was never going to be an athlete in high school. I just obviously I was never going to be famous for being an athlete. I was an okay student. I mean, I was a good student, but I wasn't a Rhodes Scholar either. But like I said, at an early age, I got into podcasting really before anyone really knew what podcasting was, and so I remember hearing between this and listening to Rush Limbaugh for the past few years, I definitely knew I wanted to get into podcasting, and so when I was in high school, that was really when I started a podcasting setup, and look, I just started attracting millennials who were kind of like, yeah, we're sick and tired of this PC. It wasn't so much the trophy generation shit that pissed my friends and I off. It was more of the fact that, like, no one, well, I wouldn't say no one, but that you couldn't make, like, jokes or even say anything edgy just, like, around your friends without some peon in the background being, like, really pissed off. And one step too far. My mathematics brain is shit. I'm more of a creative person. I am a good writer, somewhat, but using my voice, I am really a radio guy at the end of the day. Well, now I'm a YouTube guy, as well, but same thing. So fast forward a few months later. So Adam Carolla, in terms of a podcast, was really the first podcast I subscribed to. Now, I've done a show about Andrew Breitbart. I did like a 3-hour show about Breitbart's influence on me, like a few months ago. But what I didn't play back then was the first time I heard Andrew Breitbart. I first heard Breitbart on the Adam Carolla podcast, actually, as well. And it was a long podcast, so I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this segment in particular still stands out to me the other day, because, again, nothing with the far left with any of those ash douches have really changed at all. The left is still the left, and they're getting increasingly worse, especially now with all this YouTube censorship and Carlos Maza and all that crap. But this was the first time I had heard Andrew Breitbart speak ever on the Adam Carolla show. So again, sorry for the poor video quality. This was from like back in 2011 and whatnot, but when video codecs weren't great yet. But anyway, clip number 2. Let's roll.
Yeah, but here's the question, because I wonder about this as someone who's labeled a right winger and a bigot, a horrible Hollywood dad.
You?
Yeah,
I heard what you were talking about in the last segment. That I get a lot of that. I get a lot of that just because I have strong opinions on things.
But sometimes you do it as satirically. I think that would.
Well, the thing is they run. Here's a couple things. You could say, I'm for gay marriage. I'm for the legalization of marijuana. I'm for a woman's right to choose, and I want us to pull out of Afghanistan. And then you could go, but I don't think taxes should be raised. And they'd go, fucking righty.
Yeah.
You're such a right-winger. You and Chuck Heston should go polish your musket somewhere. And you're like, am I not allowed to have one opinion? Yeah. One fucking opinion that differs from your super lefty agenda? I have one opinion, less government. And then maybe we share 8 out of 10 opinions. But I have one opinion about beefing up the border. And all of a sudden, me and Ronald Reagan are just going on a hayride somewhere to hell. And it's like, why am I not allowed to have one opinion that differs from you? And then why, if I had 8 opinions that covered you, but 2 that differed from you, then how can you call me a member of this group when I have more in common with the group that you're associated with?
Here's what I'll tell you about this. I really am not that political. I don't even care what my opinion is on gay marriage or on abortion. I care about ending the tyranny that you see from the hard left. I really don't like the hard left. I don't mind my liberal Democrat neighbors, who are JFK liberals. I hate the tyranny of...
Which, by the way, people have also asked me what my opinions on, all that is. I've talked about, all that before, but since I have a new audience, I'll get to that stuff later on in the program. I'll get to that for you guys. No, Trolita, I'm not mad. Oh, you were talking to Fat Keck Boy. No, I'm not mad at all. I'm happy that everyone is here, and I'm happy that I made 500 subs this week. It was a good week. I'm happy.
hard left. Wherever you see the left in charge, Hugo Chavez's Venezuela.
By the way, one step too far, I will get you my email. So check your Twitter DMs.
In Cuba, there isn't a First Amendment. There isn't free speech. And so think about this. During the anti-war campaign against George Bush, you heard dissent is patriotic, dissent is patriotic, dissent is patriotic. And then Joe Lieberman, who 3 years before that, was the standard bearer of the Democratic Party, running as vice president, he disagrees on one thing. He says, no, I support George Bush on the war on terror, and the hard left extricated him and annihilated him and took away his reputation with the Democratic Party for disagreeing on one thing. Right. I hate that.
Well, let me ask this. I have this theory, which is I don't think that the hard left hates Republicans. I think they just hate this country. I really do think they hate this country. And they never say that. They do that thing where they go, we support the troops, we love the troops, but we don't support the cause. Right. And by the way, saying that it's like saying I love the players but I hate the team.
Right.
Or we should lose the game but I love the players. Like, which is it? If you support the troops or you love the troops, then don't give me that bullshit where you get to have it both ways, where you get to be the patriot, love the troops, but you don't like the cause. But whenever you really get into it with these people, whether it be I remember when Reagan called the Soviet Union an evil empire, and a lot of people on the left got their panties in a bunch. Hey, Hugo Chavez, any of these people, Castro. What are you big fans of these people? Really? Like, are you really big fans of these super oppressive dictators? Are you really big fans of what goes on in the Middle East and how they treat their women over there? I thought you were all about humanitarian rights. I thought the whole deal was you're about the individual and their rights. And all these fucking countries that you semi-glorify and protect, they're horrible. And they're horrible to their people. You should be the tip of the spear when it comes to getting those guys out of office or doing whatever we need to do over there. So is it that you really love them, or is it more that you hate us? And I suspect it's a self-loathing thing. I know it is from a psychodynamic standpoint. Right. They have no. It's like all the people that were here that were, communists or socialists back in the day. They didn't know for one goddamn hot second what it was like over there, and they wouldn't have lasted 10 seconds in a communist regime. There's no sane person or honest person that says, "Oh no, I think communism is a better lifestyle and a better way of governing people." No, they hate this. It's not that they like that; they hate this, but they won't admit that they hate this.
Yeah, they're just not intellectually honest about it.
Angry at the man.
I actually like leftists who will admit that they're Marxist-Leninists and they exist and they say, "I want to take this country down." At least they're honest about it.
Okay, so someone in the chat is asking if I'm on BitChute. So, funny thing about BitChute, I was on BitChute. I did have a channel over there. Honestly, I closed down my BitChute channel, or I didn't close it down. I made it private because honestly, I don't know how to really work. I'm still getting used to the settings over there on BitChute, and when I was making critiques of Owen and hosting John Arcade videos, I kept getting like massive email notifications from BitChute saying that, like, so and so bear commented, and then I would read the comments and it was just like all garbage. So I'm not, and besides, BitChute does not upload like my full shows either. BitChute will take my shorter videos, but they won't take my longer podcasts, like this one, that are over like an hour. So anyway, that's the question. To answer your question on BitChute, I will reopen that channel if we can get some BitChute subscribers. And I'm not sure about going on DLive yet. I'm looking into that. So, well, I will get to the Trump 2020 question. Maybe not tonight, but certainly on Saturday. I'll get to it. Well, I might get to it tonight. I don't know. But we still have a couple of segments to talk. We still have a couple of things to talk about tonight.
And be friends with them. I can, have beers with them. What I don't like is how they get, the PR that they're peaceful. And they're saying, hey, let's try and find common ground with Hugo Chavez and Ahmadinejad, and let's meet together. Think about how they treat Sarah Palin. Think about how they treat conservatives. They're hardly peaceful people when it comes to dealing with people in the United States. Think about how they treated the Mormon Church. Think about how they treated that cashier at El Coyote who gave $100 to Prop 8. Completely demonized that person. I would say to them, if you're consistent, let's go to the First AME Church in South Central Los Angeles and let's start protesting gay marriage. Will you do that?
Right.
They won't do that.
Sure.
They go after the easiest targets in the world. They're just a bunch of bullets. But I'll say this. I will say this for the Hollywood left. They're much better at capitalism than the conservative right. Like the magazines that you associate with the conservative movement, they're so good at propounding the virtues of capitalism and the American way that there is no group of people who are better at capitalism and expanding into greater markets than the Hollywood left. They're like, hey, let's get the top guy in Bulgaria, the top entertainment in Bulgaria, put him in Die Hard 7, and then we'll market it in Bulgaria. We don't even know that happened,
right.
That he was in the movie. but they ended up selling out seats in Bulgaria because he's in it. So I think a lot of it comes from that obvious liberal guilt. People who came from absolutely no money, got off the bus, made it big, and they feel so unbelievably guilty about it that they run around with their noblesse oblige liberalism.
The part how do they reconcile? And by the way, speaking of the strike, like, first off, Writers Union, fuck you. Screen Actors Guild, fuck you. I don't want to be in any of your shitty unions. I would love to be out of your piece of shit extortionist racket of a fucking union you guys have.
And they're still claiming it was a victory.
How they
Hey, we totally changed the Hollywood system.
I love
when
when people. I love the crazy blind allegiance that every asshole in Hollywood has towards SAG and AFTRA. Fuck you guys. It's a fucking Shanghai you. They take your first fucking paycheck and they shove you into this union. And then all these asswipes go, oh yeah? Well, if you weren't in that union, well, then how are you going to get your free dental care? I'd fucking pay for a dental plan that would save me a shitload of money over the money I have to fucking pay into these fucking extortionists who don't do shit for me. And then they go, oh, what about the commercials? When you do a commercial? When we do a commercial, my agent gets in, James Baby Doll Dixon, and they haggle over how much to get me to hold up a Taco Bell taco. That's it. I don't need this fucking union bullshit. And I don't understand why the left is so fucking in love with these extortionists. And by the way, you don't have a choice. You want to work in Hollywood, you get sucked into this fucking blood-sucking unions. And then they have votes and all this kind of shit. We had Ed Asner on our show the other day. I think he was president of one of the unions. He started talking about 9/11 and this bullshit conspiracy theory and about how, we took the buildings down and stuff. And then at a certain point, he started talking about how we could have liberated Auschwitz two years earlier, but we chose not to, and this and that. And as I was driving home, I just realized that old fuck hates this country.
Yeah.
It's not that he loves Auschwitz or the Jews. It's not that he fucking thinks that there's something in the buildings. It's more he hates this country.
I think he's still bitter. He's still bitter. Ted Knight, I think, came out better.
I kind of just want to rip his ample back hair out.
Yes.
One
how
tuft at a time.
Anyway, though, that was my introduction to Breitbart. Like I said, I've done a whole show on I've done a whole show on Breitbart. Great man, miss him a lot. But yeah, this okay, so let me address one of the questions in the chat. Will Trump win in 2020? I actually talked about this a bit on my other podcast, the American Watchman Roundtable, last week. So if you haven't watched that yet, feel free to go over and watch that after this broadcast. I've still got to put that one on iTunes too, but I will later on. Anywho, will Trump win in 2020? Let me be honest. I honestly don't know at this point. I will say this. I'm glad that he's president because there was no alternative. I was one of those guys during the 2016 election where I would have voted for Jeb Bush, and I would have been happy about it if it had been Jeb versus Hillary. I was voting for not. I took the Dennis Miller route, also an influence of mine, which was I'm voting for not Hillary. But what I loved about Trump was the fact that Trump was just, politically incorrect. he didn't give a fuck on the campaign trail. I mean, I know this is, you know, going to be the stereotypical Trump talking points, but honestly, his presence and just the fact that it triggered the left as much as it did and got the pendulum starting to swing back to the right a little more was awesome for the time. However, the thing that I think really is going to hurt Trump in 2020 is, well, the fact that we don't have the wall yet, which, listen, when it comes to the wall, I want the wall, but the wall is now my second priority in terms of stuff to do. My first priority now, which I'm going to do a segment on, my first priority is saving the First Amendment, because the First Amendment is under attack. Because, let's face it, the government really isn't the one that controls, you know, free speech anymore or any of that. It's run by big multinational corporations. Whether you like or not, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to free speech, we are living in Blade Runner times. The Tyrell Corporation, you know, the Tyrell Corporation, in air quotes, basically runs everything in terms of free speech. And they're also starting to develop robots / replicants. So we might not have them exactly yet, but Ridley Scott was not that far. He wasn't that far off. But will Trump win in 2020? If it's him versus, I mean, I don't see, it's going to have to be him, because, like, if Elizabeth Warren is running, or, you know, or any of these other crazy whack jobs is running, I'm voting for Trump 100% again. Will he win? I don't know. I think that the left has gotten way smarter about not underestimating us. I also think that there are idiots out there who I don't really want to say were on our side, but more like they LARPed on our side and made us look bad. Which, in all honesty, that's one of the reasons why I went so hard on Owen for the last year. I mean, obviously the fact that Owen, you know, Owen got in bed with, you know, Eric Nimmer as a business partner, and that whole thing, that was a mess. And the Johnny Arcade frame was bad as well. So those two things obviously were why I dislike Owen. But on top of all that, Owen was the guy parading around the free speech martyr symbol, and yet if you look at Owen is now the stereotype of what every, you know, liberal likes to, you know, paint conservatives as. You know, just crazy madmen who scream about the moon and who blame Jews for everything, and who, you know, who just rant crazy, mumbling nonsense. I don't know if Owen is controlled opposition. The thought has crossed my mind a few times. But then on the other hand, I oftentimes think that Owen isn't controlled opposition, but he's just so kind of dumb that his rhetoric is working to make the rest of us who actually have been in this fight for a long time look bad. It could be either one of those. Same with the alt-right. Same with the alt-right. Now, look, in terms of my views, this is kind of another segue here. I would say that I'm a conservative libertarian. I'm not like... I think that hardcore libertarians are just like a little too far out there in terms of just like pure anarchy. But basically, like, I think if you want to grow like a pot plant in your backyard, I think you should be able to do that. If you're a guy and you want to get married to another guy, I might not like be thrilled about it personally, like in my own life, but yet you do you. If you want to own guns, and you want to like even own like an AK-47 and you're properly like licensed and you're not an idiot and whatnot, go for it. As long as you're the rules I have are pretty hard and fast. Don't be a kitty diddler. If you have kids, just take care of them and be a responsible parent. Try and be a good member of your society. But, just keep things copacetic, pretty much. Other than that, just you be you. So I'm definitely more of a guy who it's interesting. I'm more into like the culture war stuff, and I'm more of a guy who would love to talk about like movies and music and like other non-political stuff for 3 hours and have like a conversation with people about that. Politics is boring to me, but politics is also downstream from culture. So when I talk about it, I try and be entertaining at least. I like to try and make boring stuff interesting, and I mean that's one of the reasons why I love the DZ is even though it's a small group of us, we can just all talk about random stuff and talk about random topics, and I mean same with the Savages community and the ROTC community as well. So that is all awesome. So, and like Trolita and I a few months ago got onto a whole thing about David Lynch films. I almost blanked on that. By the way, I still can't get into Twin Peaks. That show is still too trippy for me. And I've watched The X-Files, but there's something about Twin Peaks. Anyway, we'll get on to that in maybe a future segment. Also, kind of going off on a quick Owen tangent, but not really. I was listening to the Van Halen album 5150 today, which is the first well, technically it's the first Van Hagar album if you really want to get serious about it. But up until the Paul Owen thing, came about. I did not know what 5150 actually meant, but now that I know what it means, Owen, congratulations. You are going to receive a copy of Van Hagar's 5150, buddy. I hope you still have like a CD player or something to play it in. Maybe I should send it to him on cassette or something. Well, but then I also don't want him having my address if I Amazon it to him. So, anyway, I just thought that was funny that I finally got what the title of that album actually means. I just thought it was a random string of numbers. Anywho, so podcasting is still cool and fun, and for the most part copacetic. That is, audio podcasts are. Now, I hate to break it to you, ladies and gentlemen, but if the YouTube Vox Adpocalypse keeps going on everyone's channels, and if they start taking out even the smaller channels like mine, guess what? I know that you guys like watching me and like looking at my face and watching me react to videos, but I have no problem going back to like internet radio, even on Blog Talk Radio, where the audio quality is horrible. I will go back there. I will go back to radio if I can't find a good streaming alternative. And people are asking me, well, have you heard about D Live yet? Listen, the thing with D Live is I like the idea of D Live, but D Live hasn't been, I guess, out long enough to really, I don't know that it's going to be the YouTube like contender that everyone thinks it's going to be. I know the fact that PewDiePie there is like helping it get like some major momentum and whatnot, but that doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. So, I also know that D Live has stickers, ladies and gentlemen. Oh boy. I want to tell Royce and Merch that they need to turn off the stickers because, damn, you guys can get... You guys have, like, high OCD when it comes to stickers on that stream. I'll be on there, and, like, I'll be trying to watch, but then I'll see, like, 20 stickers non-stop, and I'm just, like, trying to read the chat for, like, interesting stuff. But, then I just see stickers non-stop. Yes, Savage. Yes, Savage Tiger. I'm with you on the stickers. So, and now it's time for our next segment of the show. Now that I've pretty much gone on to everything on my list, it's time for me to break down the latest video from everyone's favorite beanie-wearing journalist, Tim Pool, who had a very good video about the coming Vox Adpocalypse and kind of the whole state of YouTube. At least I thought it was pretty good, so I want to play this and break it down. It's about 20 minutes. I'm not sure if I'm going to play the whole thing, but I do want to break it down a little bit. So, yeah. Okay, now my OCD is kicking in a little bit because you guys are talking it like a movie and I have no idea which one you're talking about. So, oh, Godzilla. I've seen the old one. I've seen the really old one. Haven't seen the new one yet. But, anyway. So, beanie-wearing journalist Tim Pool had a really good take on the whole, Vox Adpocalypse thing a few days ago. And so I wanted to go ahead and play part of it for you guys. So this is Tim Pool on the Vox Adpocalypse. And I'm gonna have to go into my files and look for it. Lovely. Okay. Okay. So this is Tim Pool on how basically big journalists want the Vox Adpocalypse, and he's not wrong here for the most part. I do have a few critiques, so I will pause those as usual to make my critiques. But here's Tim Pool's latest take on the whole Vox Adpocalypse here on YouTube. Cut number 1, go.
Over the past couple of weeks, we've been embroiled in a media battle. The Vox Adpocalypse hit, historical channels, independent creators, journalists, all being purged from the YouTube Partner Program. This is, I wouldn't call it a concerted effort necessarily or a conspiracy or anything like that. I don't believe there's a group of people at media twirling their mustaches saying, let's all do this. But it is the dominoes falling over exactly as you could predict. The media is dying. And I've said this over and over again. As they drown, they become violent and thrash about and grasp for whatever they can. People in media
so
know
far, so good.
They can target independent creators individually because we're weak as individuals. It's easy to take down YouTube when you point to one guy like Steven Crowder. In the past couple of days, we saw a smear on the front page of the New York Times. You may be a regular YouTuber, like in terms of entertainment content, wondering, why do I care what you say, Tim? Let me tell you. Vox Adpocalypse hit people who were just journalists. The New York Times...
Say what you will about Tim Pool, but he is very good at, I wouldn't even say red pilling, because that's not a good term, but I guess throwing cold water on normies and people who are asleep, and at least getting them interested in learning about some of this stuff. So, as much as people like to give Tim Pool crap about the beanie and whatnot, which, yeah, that's all very funny, and I like to tease him about that too. At least he's being a serious, this is a video that I could send to one of my liberal friends who's not a hardcore leftist, and we would probably be able to start a meaningful conversation about all this. So that's why I like Tim Pool.
Front page smear against all of YouTube. Make no mistake, it will come for you, and I've got evidence stacked up to show you exactly how and why. Steven Crowder tweeted this: Vox is already pushing the New York Times hit piece that falsely smeared YouTubers like Philip DeFranco, Joe Rogan, and Jordan Peterson as alt-right. Massive media companies continue their campaign to smear and silence independent creators. We've got a couple things happening here. The first, these media companies get salaries. They make ad revenue. YouTube is taking away a lot of the ad revenue from these companies. Viewership is switching to mobile and to digital. Old school advertisements don't work anymore, and the media industry is collapsing layoff after layoff over and over again. Don't take my word for it. HBO just canceled Vice News tonight. It is not going to survive, and I assure you, they're going to turn around and come for all of us. Don't take my word for it. Let me show. Actually, this is my word, but let me show you some evidence. I tweeted this: don't you see how the game is played yet? Media today is not seeking to inform, they are seeking to destroy for political ends. Take a look at this Google search I pulled up. I Google searched natural news. I don't know too much about natural news. From what I understand, they're a bit off their rocker, not a big fan. That's not the point. The point is, 2 days ago, the Daily Beast wrote how natural news became a conspiracy hub. And then yesterday, Facebook removes conspiracy site Natural News. Like clockwork. How about this story? Chase withdrew services to conservative business 1 day after Slate reporters' query.
Night Rex 07.
Or was she seeking to destroy a political rival? I'm highlighting these two things because there's an overlap. I tweeted, I warned the media would become increasingly unhinged as they struggle and collapse. Many have warned that with 2020 coming up, they will do everything they can to stop opposition rhetoric. And of course,
someone in the chat is asking if they think Tim Pool, fucks that beanie. No, honestly, I think that Tim Pool goes to, like, hipster bars. Wait, do hipsters even go to bars, or do they just all congregate in coffee shops still? I know that the hipsters in Denver don't ever drink unless it's, like, at a craft brewery bar. I think that Tim Pool goes to, like, craft brewery, like, bars, I guess they're called micropubs or whatever, and microbreweries, or to coffee shops, either one, and he always picks up, like, the other hipster chicks that are wearing, like, that are also wearing beanies and probably, like, have glasses. Okay, has anyone watched BoJack Horseman? And there's that Asian chick who's like a hipster, journalist, BuzzFeed type thing. Like, I imagine that Tim Pool goes for that type of hipster chick. And, like, among hipsters, Tim Pool is like a 10 in the hipster. Like, all of the hipster chicks probably want to get with Tim Pool. His beanie just gives him, like, it just, like, elevates his dating power in the hipster community. So, that's what I imagine that Tim Pool gets up to, since people in the chat are asking. So, Tim is gay? Wait, are you serious? Is Tim Pool really gay?
the story. Facebook suspends Natural News. Founder calls for President Trump to use military against tech giants. Well, I don't know who this guy is or what his deal is, but I can say the smears are coming. They're going to get worse. They will take anything you say out of context. They will pull up your archives from years ago to prove something is wrong with you. It's one of the biggest dangers of YouTube, is that YouTube bends over backwards to these people. In the original, in the New York Times hit piece, we noticed something really interesting. They claimed that it was radicalizing someone to the right. But interestingly, they included this timeline, which shows he started out on the right. He wasn't radicalized to the right. In fact, it shows over time he became left-wing. With the
Night, Fat Cack Boy. Oh, and by the way, I want to, before you go, Fat Cack Boy, I want to thank you for really helping be one of the ones to push me to 500 subs. You've done tremendous work. Unbelievable. No one does promotion like Fat Cack Boy. So, 07 to you. Joshua Rogers in the chat goes, everyone was actually gay. 2020 coming soon. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Johnny. What you have to understand, John Arcade, is Owen Benjamin is so gay. Owen Bendoverman is so gay that he makes Tim Pool look straight. And he makes a lot of other gay guys, who are just like normal, look straight. And yet he claims to be straight.
Intellectual dark web being the first step in becoming left-wing. Why would the New York Times frame it in the inverse? Brett Weinstein tweeted, amazing. New York Times sees one man's YouTube history as Sunday front page above the fold material, as if nothing happened anywhere on Earth this week. In their story, the New York Times accidentally admits that far from being the gateway to the alt-right, intellectual dark web discussions rescue people from it. The reason I bring this up, there is a war. It's beginning. It's getting worse. Let me show you more evidence. I can tell you exactly why we are starting to see this. Actually, I can tell you my opinion as to why I believe we're starting to see this, and some strange questionable behaviors surrounding these hit pieces. Now, I've gone over this to great detail in the past several videos, but I believe it's important to highlight again, specifically to highlight how the initial narrative is that extremists and bigots are radicalizing young men for profit, the making of a YouTube radical, and they show you these figures. Yet, in reality, the timeline they post in the article shows the inverse. They lied on their front page story. Why? I believe I know why. Take a look at this story that's been going around. Another hit piece from the New York Times against Google in just the past couple days? Why so much hit? Why so many smears, New York Times? There were 3 smears against against YouTube from the New York Times in one day. There was a story that was published that was quite literally just a Slack, I believe it was a Slack message between 2 personalities about how YouTube doesn't enforce its rules properly, something like that. There was another piece, which is a write-up on the same thing, 3 times in one day. And then we see this from the New York Times. Google made $4.7 billion from the news industry in 2018, study says. Now, again, let's be very, very clear. There is no grand conspiracy, okay? This is the important part and the biggest thing to stress. There are not people behind...
Yeah, that's where I'm going to disagree with you, Tim. That's where I'm going to disagree with you. Also, the reason why the New York Times writes so many articles, like, they're not even, like, smear pieces against Google, I don't think. The thing with the New York Times is they're so bored that they're so bored and they have no, actual news to report, that they always have to make stuff up. So, much like HuffPo, they'll just, like, take whatever nonchalant thing is going on, like Slack messages, and then make it news. And then turn it into a big frenzy.
Twirling their mustaches, planning how to destroy YouTube and Google and hurt YouTubers and creators. It's just...
Well, they're not wanting to destroy YouTube and Google, but they are wanting to destroy the smaller creators, Tim. I'll get to that in a sec.
Dominoes falling over. This system is entirely predictable. I said this was going to happen because out of sight, out of mind, and I can only imagine the inverse would be true. When the only thing these journalists hear about all day is how they're losing views, they're laying people off, their salaries are collapsing, the Vox union walked out, they're not getting paid enough, and us here on YouTube are doing better and better every day, who do you think they'll be angry at? So no, they're not going to meetings and planning what to do, but their minds are all falling into the same place as they lose their job.
Why aren't they going to meetings and planning this? I mean, I get that you don't want to get conspiratorial, Tim, but believe me, I do believe that some of these media journalist outlets are, planning meetings on how to get rid of independent YouTube content creators. Why can't that be happening? I bet it is happening in reality. Obviously, you're not saying it because you have no way of proving it, and I understand and I can respect that, Tim. But it's definitely happening.
This story emerges. Google made nearly $5 billion from the news industry, study says. Who cares? It's called the future. It's called technology. Why are they angry? Well, let me show you. Quote. So this is not it's not a direct quote.
Again, the New York Times is bored, so they're just making headlines out of nothing.
Says, the journalists who create that content deserve a cut of that $4.7 billion, said David Chavern, the president and chief executive of the Alliance, which represents more than 2,000 newspapers across the country, including the New York Times. Can you see it now? A statement from someone who represents the New York Times saying, we deserve a cut of that money, Google. The money is ours. Does the New York Times deserve a cut of that money? No, of course not. Absolutely not. The information economy has changed. It used to be that back in the day, to publish a statement, you needed a platform. You needed one of these companies, the newspapers. And the newspapers were very, very important for the local markets. And I do lament their demise, but times change. And the correct response should be, we need to innovate and figure out how to solve this problem. Instead, they do what most industries do. It's like Netflix and Blockbuster. You had an opportunity to get on board. New York Times, you could absolutely have your individual journalists set up YouTube channels and do what we do. Instead, they aim to take us down. Why? Because they don't know how to do what we do. They're relics of yesterday, and they're going to lose their jobs, and there are problems with this system. It is bad that journalists lose their jobs. Unfortunately, the emotional response is entirely predictable. They say $4.7 billion. It's more than the combined ticket sales of the last two Avengers movies. It's more than what virtually any professional sports team is worth, and it's the amount that Google made from the work of news publishers in 2018 via search and Google News, according to a study to be released on Monday by the News Media Alliance. Excuse me. The journalist...
So wait. So they're not meeting, yet there's a big media alliance group. Right. Okay. This video is like 10 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole thing. But here's what I will say. Now that this segment is now I'm not playing Tim Pool. So Tim Pool is not completely wrong here. He gets a lot of it, and I think this video overall is once again very good for like at least introducing your your lower average information friend on this topic. Now, in 2020, one of the things I really feel that President Trump has kind of let us down on is free speech and big tech and big social media. Not just Trump, but Congress. I was really excited when Mark Zuckerberg got hauled before, Congress, and Ted Cruz asked him a whole bunch of questions. But, all that happened was Mark Zuckerberg got grilled, and then nothing happened. All Trump has been saying for months and months and months is, well, we're gonna watch the big socials, and if they do, any more bad stuff, then we're gonna keep an eye on you. Now, they're already acting. I mean, forget extreme channels. I'm talking like channels like mine or like ROTC or like John Arcade's channel, who just either do clips or do like news and commentary. They're getting demonetized now. It's like, you understand that the big channels, Mr. President, on YouTube, like the big players are not going to be the ones hurt by this. It's the smaller time, the truly independent guys who are and gals who are going to get hurt by this. Facebook and Twitter and YouTube need to decide whether or not they're going to be a publisher or just, a utility. They need to decide one or the other, but they can't be both. And so I think that what Trump needs to do, and Tulsi Gabbard has actually talked about this. This is one of the reasons I actually like Tulsi Gabbard. She's talked about breaking up the big social media platforms, trust busting, just like Teddy Roosevelt did with Big Still and with U.S. Still and Carnegie and all of those cats. Yeah. Well, I know. Okay, Johnny. I know it doesn't hurt you because you're not making your. But okay, even if you're not making a living off YouTube, Johnny, your videos should still be up, especially when you're not doing anything egregious. I mean, and here's the other thing. Revenge of the Cis, say what you will about them. You might not find their content tasteful, but it's an internet comedy show, and they're pretty, they're pretty, upfront about that. John Arcade is merely playing clips of another YouTuber, in his own words, basically burying himself with his own stupidity. And I'm just doing news and commentary, and then occasionally when I have to, I'll go after Owen or whichever idiot I think poses a threat to the conservative movement. But, I mean, I'm pretty milquetoast. I'm not even that edgy at all, and yet, it's channels like mine and channels like John Arcade that are, a big threat to YouTube. Meanwhile, Owen really hasn't been touched by YouTube all that much, and he says stuff that is really egregious. Really egregious. Stuff that would get me banned in, 20 seconds if I said 1/8 of the stuff that Owen says on stream every day. My channel would not only be demonetized, it would probably be gone from YouTube. I would probably be IP banned from YouTube and not allowed on the platform, period, if I said half the stuff that Owen said. And why isn't he off YouTube? I'm not saying that he necessarily should, but it's weird that he's not. So they seem to be very, very, very selective on who they go after. YouTube does. That's all I'm saying. And it just doesn't make sense. So, yeah. So that's pretty much all I have on my, agenda That was almost 2 hours. And I did not need to read fan mail for 4 hours or look at the chat for material for 2 hours. I just did almost like a whole 2 hours. Well, to be fair, 1 hour and 38 minutes, but still, that's content that I came up with off the top of my brain, with just the help of a few videos. So, I think it was a good show. Let me get to those Streamlabs donations. Obviously, I can't play them for you guys because Streamlabs is not available on the Mac. But let me get to those donations. So I will open up Streamlabs here in the tab. Well, okay, Josh Rogers, 07 to you. I hope you didn't donate anything and that you're going to bed now because I'm not ready to read donations. Let's check and see who donated. Okay, the Moon donated $5 2 hours ago, saying, have a good show, Sammy. And then the Ghost of Alan Powell also donated a few hours ago, actually, saying 500 pennies for 500 subs. Thank you, Alan Powell. Fat Kite Boy also donated $5 a few hours ago. I assume that was from the stream from early this morning, saying congrats on getting 500 subs. Here, have 500 cents. Everyone in the chat do the same. Well, thank you, Fat Kite Boy, and thank you, Moon. And thank you, Alan Powell. So obviously not everyone in the chat did donate, but you know what? If you can't donate, at least like, share, and subscribe to the stream. Folks, I want to thank you so very much for tuning into the program, and I will be back tomorrow, technically, for the Whitfield Report Saturday edition, starting at 10 p.m. and right here on youtube.com/Whitfield Report, and right here on the Whitfield Report audio podcast, if you're listening that way. Good night, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order, 07 to you all.